Some of the leisure companies reporting some numbers today: Royal Caribbean, Hilton. Let's break it down with Jody Laurie. She is the senior credit analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence, following these companies. Let's start with Royal Caribbean, Jody. Some pretty good numbers, I think, from Royal Caribbean, right?
Yeah. Paul, I mean, I think that it was not so surprising, but at the same time surprising. I think a lot of people were sort of anticipating that the Middle East would have a much larger, more pronounced effect. It's not saying that it doesn't. It's been, I think, well televised. Plus the fact that you benefit from the fact that Carnival reports a month before, and so I think a lot of people have time to digest that and expect Royal to perform a certain way. We are seeing that bookings are strong. We're seeing that consumers continue to spend. And I think what's so interesting about Royal is they're leaning into the loyalty credit card arena, and they've been sort of talking about how that's been positive.
When you look at the cruise space, where does Royal Caribbean fit in with Carnival, with Norwegian Cruise Line, with Viking? I mean, walk us through in terms of loyalty, in terms of the kinds of consumers they attract, and in terms of the scale that each of them can achieve.
Right, Scarlett. So Carnival's the largest in terms of number of ships. Royal is second to that, and Norwegian's a bit smaller. Viking's a little unique in that they focus primarily on river cruises, although they do have some ocean cruises. Royal is actually entering into the river cruise space as well, and they've seen some good traction in terms of bookings. But I think what's so interesting here more than anything is that you have different types of consumers. You have the consumers that will cruise no matter what the company is.
Right.
They just like cruising and they base it off of the destination and type of ship and what they're feeling that day. You have the consumers who are really dedicated to a specific brand and won't go outside that brand. I think the cruise line's goal is first to sort of attract consumers who wouldn't necessarily cruise into cruising, and then once they have them there, sort of get them dedicated to their particular brand. Now that we have much more digitalization, much more AI, I think a lot of what the companies are trying to do is extract as much personalized data so that they can really pinpoint to the customer what they think that they want to achieve with their vacation.
All right, I'm going on a Viking cruise in the fall, and I will report back on that river cruise in France. I lost a bet, let's be honest.
Are you going to expense that?
Yes, exactly, on my expense account.
It's no kids. No kids.
Yeah, exactly. Just switch gears and look at Hilton Hotels. I thought the numbers were good, but I see the stock trading off today. Tell us about Hilton. What's going on in the hotel business?
So Hilton actually, it's interesting because I thought that it was relatively strong, all things considered. You didn't see as much of a bump necessarily from the World Cup. They did say that they expected third quarter to see a bump as well. What's particularly interesting is if you look at occupancy rates, the ones that were negative this quarter were actually the highest end. And so that sort of speaks to perhaps the highest end earners either not traveling this quarter or maybe perhaps trading down. Hilton sort of hinted at that conversation on the prior call, talking about how consumers might be looking to sort of shift down a little bit in terms of their preferences. And I think we're starting to see that play out. What is interesting, though, is that they said that the AI boom is going to help middle and lower income consumers. And that's something we haven't heard in a while. Lower income consumers have gotten beaten down on quite a bit. And for obvious reasons. We have inflation pressures. We have a lot of sort of factors that are feeding into lower income consumers, pulling back on vacations. Yeah. But Hilton sort of hinted at that actually not necessarily being the case as much, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't get how that happens. And have we heard that from other companies, that the AI boom will help these two cohorts?
I mean, I think, Scarlett, it's more of a function of, the same thing how last year we talked about how the pareback of government spending was going to negatively affect a lot of hotel companies. You now have these projects, these larger projects, and these potentials for expansion into other regions, perhaps attracting individuals to work there or to be there. And so I think that's sort of the concept behind it is anytime you have project booms that can kind of help hotels, at least temporarily, potentially. But it will be interesting to see how it sort of translates and if that's really the case. Now, I will say that for both companies, the Middle East, Royal and Hilton, the Middle East was clearly the area that was the weak spot, and certainly something that they touched on, not surprisingly. And it's certainly something that's been a lagger for both the companies and has extracted some value away from what they've done.
For the hotel industry, is the industry adding net rooms, or I mean, are they still building new hotels and stuff?
They are, Paul. They are. I mean, the industry is still very much growing. It's still expanding. You have the large brands like the Hiltons, the Marriotts of the world, but you also have a lot of independents. Now, there has been some consolidation. You've also seen some independents teaming up. We have some companies out there like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which Hyatt bought, which is sort of helping to sort of expand access into independent hotels. And I think what we're sort of anticipating, or what we're sort of watching for, is whether traditional hotels kind of get a little bit more, I don't know, growth or momentum in them, as Airbnb seems to be not as popular as it once was. You also have some areas that have taken back from Airbnb or allowing it. And so I think that if that continues, you might see traditional hotels do well.
All right, Jody, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Jody Lurie, she's a senior credit analyst. She follows all the leisure industries, think hotels and cruise lines and casinos and all that kind of good stuff. She does that